Hi folks, it was so lovely seeing so many of you in our midterm experience. I hope you enjoyed that and were able to solidify some concepts from our first couple of units and feel more comfortable with those and just have an opportunity to learn from a discussion with your peers. That was really great to see happening. I was reminded at that meeting that I had been really cruel and piled 3 assignments all due on the same day. That being this coming Monday. So I kind of went through and thought about those assignments and what's due and what's going on this week and next, and did some reassignment of when those assignments are due. So here's my plan right now. I'd like to see us submit Lesson Plan Analysis 3, which is using operant and classical conditioning to analyze a lesson plan. I'd like to see you go ahead and submit that Monday. That's going to be our can you see how this theory would be applied within a lesson plan? It's a little bit tougher, this one, to be honest, because classical conditioning, for example, is not always really heavily indicated. In fact, what you'll probably look for in that lesson plan analysis are any routines that have been developed in the classroom. Is there a writing prompt on the board when the students get there? Or is there a cue that the teacher uses? And in many instances, you might have to say, this could be where classical conditioning takes place, as the teacher uses a cue to call the groups back together. Or this may be a routine that was classically conditioned in the students using these techniques. Again, also with operant conditioning, it might be obvious to see a shaping of behaviors taking place as a lesson progresses step by step. But again, you might have to read into it a little bit with having the reinforcement, right? Shaping has to have reinforcement. It's scaffolding with reinforcement. So that's not always going to be indicated in the lesson plan, right? The teacher's not going to say, be sure to offer reinforcement here, So you might have to say, this would be a good place to offer praise to students, or this would be a good place to reinforce their efforts in order to shape the behavior. So this will be a lot of, implying or saying, this is where this theory should be taking place as you're analyzing the lesson plan. Behaviorism isn't always going to be clearly spelled out. If there's quizzing taking place, if there's obvious, like I'll have all the students raise their hand or write a response on their little whiteboards or whatever, that's that observable behavior that we're checking, then that's going to help us. But if the lesson plan, it doesn't have those specific suggestions, then we're going to have to work on it a little bit. So this Lesson Plan Analysis 3, long story short, is where you can start to practice some of these concepts. So I put that due date as staying on Monday. Then the observation checklist, go ahead and take a couple of extra days, get that in on Wednesday. And then I've moved Tipper Submission 1 to Friday. So we can kind of drag these things out. Now, if you want to change up these due dates, for example, if you've been working your tail off on the tippers and you want to go ahead and submit those, just do it, right? That's not going to be any skin off my back. So submit those, and then if you want to do the lesson plan analysis for Wednesday and the observation checklist for Friday, that's fine. So go ahead and allow yourself some space in here. I'm not going to hold you to specific deadlines this week, but I don't want you to get behind. That's my concern. So go ahead and make something due Monday. Right now I have Lesson Plan Analysis 3 as that. Something due Wednesday, that's the observation checklist on my list, but do what you want. And then something due Friday, and that for me is the Tipper Submission 1, okay? Customize it, but take your time. Now, the reason why I'm saying I don't want you to get behind is because our next lesson is about writing traditional tests. That's what you should be working on next week. So you're finishing Lesson 7 this week, working on Lesson 8 for next week. And a lot of you are probably thinking, pshaw, that's really easy. And I will tell you right now, it is not, okay? So this traditional test is due Monday, March 23rd. It's the only thing you're working on in theory next week, except you're finishing up these assignments from Lesson 7. So I don't want you thinking you can leave this to Monday morning of next week, of the 23rd. Writing a good traditional test takes a couple of hours at least. If it's your first time doing it, it takes many hours. And you have the added onus of doing this for me, right? And I'm a mean perfectionist. But proper test writing is something that I'm very concerned with, right? We need to write tests that reduce students' anxiety, that really get at what students know and don't know and aren't in any way trying to trick the students. And this can be really difficult to do correctly. So here's your message for the week, my friends. You've got to go through lesson 8. Page by stinking page, because it will tell you, for example, how to set up the instructions in a matching exercise. Now that seems pretty easy. Matching exercise, all you have to do is say match these things, right? No. There's a lot more that goes into that if you're going to reduce student anxiety and if you're going to keep things going the way they should. I'm seeing here that this video is not working, so I'll go in and fix that. But if we scroll down, it's going to tell you how to set up the instructions, how to set up these 2 columns of information. There are lots of little things in here that you probably haven't thought of before. So you need to go through each page of this module, watch the videos when I make them work, and go through these instructions about how to do it. Then you got to write the required questions. You've got to put your test all together in the required format that we do for our assessment inventory. So there's a lot of work here that you've got to do. So please do not leave this to the last minute. Take it step by step. If you're working in a group, work with your group on this. This is a big task, okay? This is our last really big assessment before the end of the semester. We've got a couple others that we'll be doing, a peer assessment and some more CATs. But that's really it. Those ones are going to be a lot easier. This test, this is going to be a hard one, okay? So please leave the time for it. All right, so I'm going to jump back, finish up this announcement. If we go into the modules, what's going on? You're finishing up right now lesson 7. With that, I've changed those due dates a little bit. So if we scroll down to lesson 7, I've put lesson plan analysis 3 due Monday, the observation checklist due Wednesday, and your tipper submission 1 due Friday, but feel free to play with those due dates. Then moving down for next week, you'll be working on lesson 8 on writing traditional tests. So please work with your groups on this, but I want all of you going through each page of this module because whether or not you end up writing tests for your students, I know there are a lot of test banks out there. I know there are a lot of assessments already created out there. Most of them suck, to be perfectly honest with you. You've all taken those tests. You know how bad the questions and the instructions and the formatting are. Don't be that teacher. Teach your peers once you get out there and you have your professional learning communities, your PLCs that you work in. Teach them how to write good tests, okay? Help your students. That's what this is all about. If you write a good test, it helps your students show you what they know. It helps them to feel secure in what they're doing. And in many cases, it helps them learn. That was the objective of our midterm experience. I hope that's the objective of your tests that you give to your students, okay? So please take the time next week to go through this module, complete your traditional test, make sure it has all the required components that we need for our assessment inventories. That's our goal. Got it, my friends? All right, enjoy those date extensions. Don't get behind. I love you. You're wonderful. Have a great couple of weeks.